We knew that some people are mad and they may end up in prison or may end up beaten or whatever, but we never ever thought of something bad, really bad would happen.
I know you're able and I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone.
Susanne and Tilmann Geske were German missionaries in Turkey, and they were mistaken when they thought nothing really bad would happen. Susanne is our guest on this episode of GPS, God People Stories. I'm Jim Kirkland.
And I'm Phil Fleischman. Tilmann Geske, Susanne's husband, can't join us because he was killed, or more accurately, martyred, while he and his family were serving Christ in Turkey. You're going to hear their story, and a word from Billy Graham.
Blood is being spilled on the ground once again in our generation, in our century, for Jesus Christ.
GPS.
God
People Stories.
My parents are non-Christian, so I grew up in a total non-Christian environment. I had a Bible, but I couldn't read it because it was old letters.
That was in Germany. Susanne left home to take a job in Switzerland, and it was there that she surrendered her life to Jesus Christ at the age of 23.
I right away went to Bible school, and then I had to go back from Switzerland to Germany, where I met my husband.
Her husband was Tilmann Geske. They met in church and were married in 1992.
He was a pastor. I ended up being a pastor's wife for 5 years in a German church. And we decided, actually we always wanted to live in a Muslim country as Christian. So, yeah, we decided to go to Turkey because we had a honeymoon in Greek, and then we ended up being in Istanbul. So we loved it there, and we decided we should go in this country. It's really great.
So in 1997, Tilmann, Susanne, and their 2 children at the time left Germany to begin sharing the love of Christ with the people of Turkey. Now, Christianity has a long history in Turkey. In fact, it's home to the city where followers of Christ were first called Christians, Antioch. But today, 99% of the Turkish population identifies as Muslim. Christians make up less than 0.5% of the population.
When the Geskes arrived in Turkey, they began learning the language, and they got involved with a small team of believers who were trying to plant churches. Then Tilmann and Susanne decided to work with a Bible distribution outreach.
So they're advertising in newspapers. Do you have a Bible? Have you ever read a Bible? Do you want to read it? So you can send us in, and you will get a Bible and other books, and then you can read and send things back again. So it's like a Bible correspondence course. And if then people are interested and they live in your area, then you get contact. So that is how we got our first contacts, always. And then with having a little group, it's easier to start then. And actually, you just live your life, you live being a Christian.
Whether foreign land or neighbors, everyone's the same. Searching for the answers that lie within your name.
A big part of living as Christians in Turkey was correcting misconceptions about Christians, especially Western Christians.
So you get all these funny questions, like how many men do you have next to your husband? Stuff like this, because they have all these funny ideas from all the stuff they see in television, how Christian life should be. So you try to dig and get all the prejudices out of their mind. And so we have lots of nice conversations. And with having kids, then we had 3, having kids and talking to people about how do you raise your kids, what do you do? And you're ending up quick being deep into religious discussions or talks.
It was much safer for the Geskes to be identified as Christians rather than as missionaries.
They think missionaries are these people who come to this country, are paid by, of course, America, the government, and do all these bad things. They are, drug dealers. They have prostitutes. They are terrorists. They try to divide the country, stuff like this. Whatever mad stuff comes in your mind, this is missionaries, okay? So this is why we never use that word. And in this time, they had all this discussion in television about all these bad people being in this country and doing all this mad stuff. And they really had people setting up things. so that they could have newspaper articles about us. And they really were setting up lots of fake news. Fake news are now in, but they were there always.
But that fake news didn't stop the Geskes from sharing the good news of Jesus Christ with people in their community. Neither did it stop two of their friends, two Turkish men who ministered alongside Tilmann and who would eventually die with him for that work.
They had lots of bags with Bibles and books and stuff and videos, like the Jesus film and so. So if someone wanted, they would give it. But normally they would, what is this in English? Do you have that? It's not army and it's not police. So it's kind of a force. So they always stop you if you go east. And then they ask, what do you have there? And they say, oh, we have Bibles and stuff. So I look whether they're okay or not. And then they say, oh, can we have one? So they give out all these bags everywhere. But we knew that some people are mad and they may end up in prison or may end up beaten or whatever. But we never ever thought of something bad, really bad would happen.
Often, while his two friends were taking those bags of Bibles and videos to nearby villages, Tilmann would be working in his office at a Christian publishing house. That office was in the city of Malacha. Tilmann was part of a team working on a study Bible.
There's one day, two young guys came and asked about Christianity, had nice talks, and they came and went.
The young men came back another day, and they asked if they could bring a few of their friends with them the next time they stopped by. So on that next visit, 5 young men came by the publishing house office, and it is worth noting that Tilmann and his 2 friends knew the first 2 young men.
They started again talking about Christianity, but it turned all around. So they said, why do you do this? And started shouting at them and locked the door. And in the end, they killed them, all 3 of them.
And I pray that you will use my life in whatever way your name is glorified.
They didn't just kill the 3 Christian men. First, they tortured them.
While this happened, someone else came to the door and found out it's locked and had some noises from inside. So he right away asked for the police to come. So the police got them all on the spot. So the 5 guys were right away, got them, but for the man it was too late. That was the 18th of April, 2007.
The murder of Tilmann and his 2 friends has not stopped the Geske family from continuing to share the love of Jesus in Turkey. That was demonstrated early on when Susanne had to decide where to have Tilmann buried.
And I asked my daughter, and she's my oldest, then was 13, and I asked her, so what should we do? Should we stay here, go to Germany? We can't have to bury your dad and my husband, so what do we do? And she said, oh, Mom, Dad died for Jesus and for this church. We have to stay here and go on. And that actually was on my heart, but I wouldn't say it. So we stayed. We never thought of leaving.
In Christ, there are no goodbyes. And in Christ, there is no end.
We interviewed Susanne Geske while she was attending the World Summit in Defense of Persecuted Christians in Washington, D.C. Franklin Graham spoke at that summit, and he reminded those who attended that Christians cannot remain silent about the persecution of other believers.
As it has been said, the persecution of one Christian affects us all. God may and can use persecution to bring about good, but we should never remain silent. During our time together here in Washington, let us resolve to do all that we can to call attention to the plight of our persecuted brothers and sisters in Christ. Our churches need to hear their cry. Our congregations need to be encouraged to pray for them and to help them.
If you want to learn more about the power of prayer, you can check it out at our website, which is findpeacewithgod.net.
There's also information on that site about how to start a relationship with Jesus Christ. If you have a family member or a friend who needs to know about that, you could certainly share that page with them. Again, the address is findpeacewithgod.net.
Okay, in just a minute, Susanne's going to talk about a very effective way to reach the people of Turkey with the message of Jesus Christ.
You're listening to GPS, God, People, Stories, a podcast production of the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association.
Blood is being spilled on the ground once again in our generation, in our century, for Jesus Christ.
Billy Graham, 1965.
You know, when I used to think of martyrs, I used to have to project myself back 2,000 years and think of the martyrs under Rome. But did you know that more people have died in the 20th century for Jesus Christ than any century in the history of the Christian church? And we must have a faith that is willing to suffer. You and I may tremble in our weak faith, but God won't tremble. He'll hold you. That's the kind of faith that we have, faith in Jesus Christ. You see, Christ is the one that did the dying on the cross for you. He took your sins, and God raised him from the dead. If you're in Jesus Christ, God cannot see your sin, because Christ took them. I'm going to ask you tonight to receive him, to believe in your heart, to commit, to surrender.
Our guest on this episode of GPS is Susanne Geske. Her husband was martyred in Turkey while serving as a missionary there.
Susanne learned while she was there that there is one very effective way of reaching Turkey for Christ, and that is Christian radio.
Wherever you work, you always listen to radio. Turks are never without music or without noise. Either the television is on or the radio is on or something is on. So they find it on their radio. And lots of people listen, especially people who are not in the big city, who are like in villages or have hardly any access to anything. So, and they really appreciate having radio. So this is something that's really on my heart.
It is always an inspiration to hear these kind of stories, and in particular on this episode of GPS, to hear how God has worked through Susanne and Tilmann Geske. We want to thank Susanne for being our guest, as well as Mercy Me for sharing some of their music with us on GPS. God, People, Stories. I'm Jim Kirkland.
And I'm Phil Fleischman. Thank you for listening. GPS is an outreach of the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. Always good news.
My hope is you alone. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul.